In the anti-federalist paper Cato 3, states an unkindred legislature, therefore composed of interests opposite and dissimilar in their nature, will emphatically be like a house divided against itself. The issues of slavery and sovereignty were tense subjects for the founders, swept under the rug by the framers of the Constitution. However, these issues boiled over during the debates over slavery and state sovereignty in the antebellum period. The 1850s Senate debates define the viewpoints of a nation at a crossroads, contribute to one of the world's most famous wars, and expose the moral arguments over America's most controversial institution, slavery.
In the history of our nation, there have been many noteworthy debates that have garnered national attention. However, few debates have covered the scope of issues as did the Senate debates of the 1850s. In getting the Constitution ratified, the framers intentionally did not fully address the issue of slavery, instead leaving the question of the slave trade to be decided after 1808, according to Article 1, Section 9.
The 1850s debates reopened this discussion, revealing how intransigent each side was. Not only was the Senate divided, but these debates spread to the nation. With the publication of Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin and the controversy caused by the Dred Scott decision, the debates proved to be a topic of everyone's interest.
Similar to the tension between Britain and the colonies in the years before the Revolution, the debates of the 1850s brought out an animosity between factions on sovereignty and slavery. It only makes sense that the Revolution's leading document, the Declaration of Independence, would re-enter the debates. Senator Daniel Webster, in his eloquent 7th of March speech, declared that there are lists of grievances produced by each, and those grievances, real or supposed, alienate one portion of the country from the other. Such grievances include the North's failure to properly enforce the fugitive slave law and the popular sovereignty fiasco of bleeding Kansas against the South.
Abraham Lincoln, on the other hand, used the spirit of equality in the Declaration to advocate that in their right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, as proclaimed in that old Declaration, the inferior races are our equals. His opponent in the famous debates of 1858, Stephen Douglas, rebutted this statement by pointing out that 13 colonies allowed slavery at the time that the Declaration, and argued that its signers did not need to include the slaves in the definition.
While the Declaration was often used in debates, its lack of legal binding led many to use the provisions of the Constitution to support their arguments. Senator Douglas saw the Constitution as pro-slavery and stated in the 7th debate that each state should have the right to prohibit, abolish, or sustain slavery. Many feel that this debate was only decided by the ensuing Civil War.
On the other hand, Senator William Seward found anti-slavery leanings in the document. Though he acknowledged 2 places in the Constitution where slavery was alluded to, Seward argued, in both cases the Constitution designedly mentioned slaves not as slaves, but as persons. Unfortunately, this assertion was denied 7 years later by the Tawney Court in Scott v. Sanford.
Abraham Lincoln, although opposed to slavery, pledged to uphold the Constitution regardless of his views. This explains why, in his second debate at Freeport, he admitted that the people of the southern states are entitled to a congressional fugitive slave law. Lincoln's argument supports the idea that slavery had been what Dr. John Kaminsky calls a necessary evil. Though it was not appreciated by all, we find that ultimately slavery had been condoned by the Constitution. This had been the selling point for the South, but the arguments surrounding slavery were now ironically tearing the Union apart.
In his compromise speech on February 6, 1850, Senator Henry Clay urged America to think alone of our God, our country, our consciences, and our glorious Union, the Union with which we shall be torn into hostile fragments. His speech reflected the complexity of the issues at stake in this decade's debates.
The Senate debates of the 1850s remain some of the most important in our nation's history, not only because they greatly affected the nation at that time, but because they contain elements of nearly all other debates that have occurred before or since. The debates revived an interest in our forgotten Declaration while piquing the public's interest in their Constitution. Looking to the 1850s will be valuable as we enter the constitutional debates that face us today. This concludes our statement. We are ready for your questions.